Hey guys, welcome. So in this recording, I want to talk a little bit about something that I've been thinking about when it comes to my interest in astrology and whether I talk about astrology with other people, um, especially in person. So the general answer is not particularly, not really. Um, it has been a little bit difficult for me in general to find people, especially in person, who have similar interests or similar things that they do in terms of interests. But there are a few people that I've talked to about it, and in general, I find that with astrology, um, it's hard to find those people that you can kind of really learn from and go deep with when it comes to astrology and astrological discussions, especially when my own interest in astrology is a little bit unpredictable, unstable. Um, I'll have bursts of interest in it, and then I'll kind of take a step back a little bit. And so it's hard for me to keep consistent. So it's difficult to kind of feel confident about, for example, participating in an astrological community or something like that, or even participating in astrological discussions or something like that. Um, so in general, I don't really have astrological deep dives with people, but I do have the occasional astrological discussion or conversation. Um, but because, like I was saying, my own interest in astrology tends to kind of wax and wane, um, it's hard to find a consistent way to really participate in some kind of community or something like that. I do talk a little bit about astrology with certain family members occasionally online or in person, and I have a friend who I've kind of tried to talk a little bit with this kind of stuff with, but he very much rejects this, and it's actually interesting to listen to his perspectives on it. There's some good insights that he has as well. And I've had somebody that I used to talk to online quite a lot who I would kind of talk about astrology with, but it would never really. There's a way that I speak about astrology in on my channel, for example, that doesn't translate to my conversations quite as well or quite as much. And I think with astrology and other similar subjects, it is difficult, especially if you, for example, live in a small town, uh, to find people that you can kind of have these conversations with or that you can have a really deep dive with. But I do enjoy the odd astrological discussion when I can have one. Um, Even my mum would sometimes ask me, you know, like, what sign is the moon in right now? Because she tends to have a more, like, a less developed interest as, for example, me. And I don't even have that developed of an interest where I don't know. There's a lot of things that I don't know about astrology still. But my mum would kind of feel certain correlations, for example, with her mood or things that are happening in her life or in the world, and so she will kind of be interested in, like, what sign is the moon in right now, and she will ask me, and I will tell her, like, in Taurus or in Gemini or in Sagittarius or whatever, if I know. Usually I know. Um, so it's like she, as someone who with a more casual interest in astrology, even she can kind of feel and pick out the energies that seem to be correlating, or she will kind of notice a certain pattern or a certain mood in herself or in other people, that she will kind of be curious, like, if there's a correlation with the moon's current moon sign or the moon phase and what is happening in her life or in the world in general. So even conversations like that are actually kind of there's a certain level of bonding when it comes to that. So there's a certain connection that I feel when I even when I can talk in little ways about astrology like this. But like I said, my interest in astrology tends to change, and it's not as maybe as intricately developed as a lot of people's. Um, I can talk about that for hours, but I'm not going to go into that too deeply right now. But um, so it is difficult to kind of find that uh, space where you feel really comfortable and where you can really deep dive. I'm not really into Facebook groups. I have tried Facebook groups before. I'm not too into them in general, and so I have posted a little bit in Facebook groups, astrology themed ones and other ones, but nowadays I don't really post on Facebook groups unless it's something that I really want to say. And I don't think I've learned that much from Facebook groups, but I know that it's a great uh, opportunity for many people who are learning astrology to go on Facebook or to find similar groups in other places as well in order to learn about astrology. So, for example, meetup groups from meetup.com. Uh, those can be especially interesting, I guess, if you're in a city or something like that. Like I live in a smaller place, so I don't want to like go up to a city every time I want to go to like a meetup or something like that with people that I don't even know, that I've never met before. So I don't really like really long travels and things like that. Um, of course, the capital city isn't too far away from me, but I don't feel like kind of traveling to the city every time, kind of on a regular basis, in order to have like um, meetup groups or discussions or something like that. But I'm kind of happy in my little zone of astrology right now, in that I can discuss it if I feel like it on this channel. I can discuss it with certain friends or certain family members occasionally, and I can keep learning. So there are, things about um, astrology that I'm not as drawn to, and there's other things that I will think about more. And so I have my own little space where I can kind of discuss things about it. So I do appreciate that at least. My favorite thing right now is looking at the kind of the transits. So what is actually happening in the collective. So I'm very intrigued by that lately. I'm kind of trying to find ways to talk about that more or think about that in a more intricate way so that I can share my insights about it. But it's very difficult. It's not like reading a birth chart, or it's not even like personal transits. It's like what is actually happening collectively, and trying to match certain transits, planetary transits that are happening with like wars or with just things happening politically or in society in different countries. And that is one of the most interesting parts of astrology that I'm really intrigued by right now, is the kind of the way that astrology and society tend to like shift, and the astrology shifts with the collective and the collective shifts with the astrology, so they go hand in hand. So if you observe these patterns, it's very intriguing. I've read long articles about, the outer planets changing signs and everything that has happened collectively that was like huge during those times. And there's like certain things that are written about that might happen when the planet goes there again. So, for example, Neptune goes to Aries next in a few years. So it's in Pisces right now, and there's articles about, I'm kind of going off topic here, so I'll finish off soon, but I don't know what led me here. But when Neptune goes to Aries next, it'd be interesting to see like what happens and if there's any kind of pattern forming when you compare the next Neptune in Aries transit with the previous one and the one before that and things like that. So there's articles about that I'm very interested in right now, in reading about like seeing the patterns of the collective. It's probably my Saturn return. My Saturn is in Aquarius. I used to not think about the collective and society so much. I was kind of very much in my own bubble. I still am in a lot of ways, but I think the Aquarius Saturn in me, currently I'm in my Saturn return as well. I think that is influencing me to think about society and the collective a little bit more, like seeing like a bird's eye view of like what is happening, seeing the patterns of society and the collective, like what we are doing. We are all individuals, right? But we are also part of a bigger whole, obviously. So we are all contributing in some way to this big framework and this big like thing happening in like on this planet, everything has such an effect on everything else in a way, if that makes sense. So I have a video on Saturn in Aquarius and having a Saturn return in Aquarius. If you want to check that out, I might link that. So I think having the Saturn return in Aquarius is kind of influencing me to think about these things a little bit more. And yeah, I appreciate the chance to be able to discuss astrology a little bit with whoever I discuss it with occasionally, and on this channel, of course. But like I said, I don't have like a major um, astrological discussion group or anything like that. I think there's probably more that I wanted to say, but I can't really think what it was. So I can always follow up with another recording or a video. So thank you so much for listening, and do subscribe if you find this content interesting. Thank you so much. Bye.